Welcome to another virtual town hall session with Miss Barbara of Growth Solutions team. She is a chief marketing officer and also a marketing catalyst, right?
Well, I think so. My title is Chief Marketing Officer, and I'm also the sales catalyst for our company, the Growth Solutions team. So that's great. Thank you, Manuel. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here. And our topic for today is relationship marketing for non-sales people. So how I just botched that up, don't do that.
Don't worry about it.
So it was, as always, some excitement here in terms of technology, but we're going to go ahead and make this work. So let's go ahead and move on here. All right. So relationship marketing for non-sales people. Feel free to tell me if we're moving on to your slide here.
Yep. The work that we do at Growth Solutions team, we're oftentimes working with small business owners who are very good at their trade. They're doctors, lawyers, dentists, tradespeople, insurance. So all types of professions who've decided to go into business for themselves. So they may not be classically trained in business development, client acquisition. So that's not always a comfort level for them. So my work with people is oftentimes helping them get comfortable in understanding how to bring clients into their firm and really removing some of the stigma they have around selling. So that's what I want to talk about today. If you have a pencil and paper, I'm going to ask you to jot down a few things for your own exercise in this process, because a lot of it's going to be changing the way you think about sales and relationship marketing. So if you would go to this next slide, there's a graphic here. And if you, there we go. So this is, if you don't know what this is, that's okay. This is a sales funnel. Every business has one. And basically it's a representation, a visual representation of how one's business acquires customers. And everyone's slightly different. So it depends on the type of product or service you're selling. There may be multiple steps along the way, but this is a generic sales funnel. And if you notice at the top of this funnel, it's the prospecting portion. It's the widest part. And when we talk about top of funnel, if you think of the acronym TOFU, not a very tasteful thing. A lot of times people don't like doing stuff that's top of the funnel, and that's okay. So prospecting and entering this, if you can imagine the universe is outside of this funnel, it's every possible prospect, customer, every possible person on the planet. They're not all going into your funnel. The ones that are going in are those that we identify as being good fits for what we offer. So if you look to the next slide, I want to talk about the fact that selling, the way that you think about sales is it will truly impact how you sell. So if you would go to the next slide, and I'm going to give you an exercise and think about this. This is a word association game. Quickly jot down whatever comes to mind first when you hear the word sales or selling or salesperson. You might come down with 2 or 3 words. Take a moment, jot them down, and we will look at the words that come forward. So if you flip to the next slide, when I've done this in live groups or with interactive groups, the information that they typically answer fall into 1 or 2 categories. If you look at the next slide, they usually fall into category A, and tell me if any of your words came up in category A. They may be like used car salesperson, snake oil salesperson, aggressive, persistent, slimy, greedy, money, obnoxious, loud, talkative. That may be what comes to mind when you think about sales or selling. I, on the other hand, tend to drive answers that, and sometimes I'll see folks that go, confident or solution provider. Those words that come in column B: successful, helpful, value-driven, assertive, rewarded. It could be money-driven too. Good listener, effective. So I'm curious, if your words that you put on paper, the majority of them fall into category A, then you might have some head junk about selling, and that will impact how effective you are at putting on that sales role for your company. If you think that salespeople are distasteful and off-putting, then you will have a real challenge in trying to sell for your business. So I want you to think about it, because the best salespeople I've ever experienced tend to fall in category B. And flip to the next slide for me, Manuel, and I'll show you. Think about those words are still coming up in each category, but those on the category A, I think of those people as like a sales hack versus a sales professional. And so ask yourself, which do you want to work with? I prefer to work with a sales professional, someone that can provide value, solve problems for me, is a good listener, understands what I want. A sales hack, they may be out there, but those are usually the people we associate with selling in a negative connotation. And you have the ability to change that perspective in your own mind and outlook. And I would strongly suggest that you do that. You have the choice to be a sales hack or a sales professional. Which do you want to be, right? So look to the next slide for me, if you would. And I really think that selling is selling is less about personality and it's more about a process. So I want you to think about anyone can be effective at selling if you just be yourself and follow the process. So you do not have to become some other person, some unethical person or disingenuous person to be effective in selling. In fact, it works against you. So move to the next slide, if you would, Manuel. And again, like I said, I think a lot of this is how you view things. And if you change what's happening between your two ears, it's the first start in taking on a challenge and envisioning the person you want to be at successful at something. So what I have here are a few truths I want you to consider as we discuss the whole concept of selling and selling to people your product or services. Number one, people are not sold. They decide to buy, okay? If you've had an experience in the past where you feel like, I was sold a bag of goods, that was not a good experience. It's probably because the person wasn't completely honest in the information they provided you. So if you look at the second point on this page, people buy for their reasons and not yours. I think the best conversation between a prospect and a vendor is one of a lot of questions and listening. Sales 101, ask questions and listen, right? So the third point here, people buy based on emotions and justify with logic. And I'll give you an example. If you would, Manuel, unmic yourself because I'm going to ask you a question. You're married, correct?
So far, yes.
Okay. If anyone's ever experienced this, your wife comes home from the mall and she's got bags of, when we used to be able to go to malls, she has bags of clothes and shoes and stuff for the house and everything. And you ask her about that. What does she usually say why she bought these things?
Is this a hypothetical one or? I mean, it hardly happened. So for the most part, this is hypothetical. So I'll go ahead and say, she'll go ahead and say that, oh, it's somebody's birthday or because our intern here, Mika, needs new clothes. So something to that.
We needed it. We needed it.
Yes.
Probably something like it was on sale. It was a great bargain, right?
Yes.
Right. A logic comes out when justifying those purchases.
Mm-hmm.
Truth be told, she was being a loving mom. She was being, or she tried on an outfit and somebody said, oh, that outfit makes you look so good. And she felt good in it. So there were emotions tied to those purchases. But that's not what she's telling you. Same thing if my significant other likes cars and you can buy a fancy sports car, and then the logic might come out, it gets really good mileage and it fits better in the garage. They're just crazy, but that's what we do. So people buy based on emotions, and those emotions are usually things like, hey, I like to feel good about the person I'm working with. This makes me feel beautiful, or smarter, or more in control. I feel like a solid business person. We can go into those. We can spend a whole talk on just the reasons why people buy, but they're going to back it up with some logical, the other side of their brain. And then again, to underscore that selling is not about a personality, it's about the process. So some truths I want you to keep in mind as we go through this. So if you would flip to the next slide for me. So the goal here today is to increase your comfort level with developing relationships that can yield you customers. The first thing I want you to consider doing is creating your value message. And that like, why you at your company? Why should people buy from you? And so we really want to start with the end in mind. If you go to the next slide for me, please. So a value message is made up primarily of three things. The first one is, who do you serve? Who are your best clients for the products and services you offer? The second one is, what problems do you help others solve? And then the third is, what do your customers get by hiring you, or by buying from and working with you in your company? Okay, so those are the three components of a value message. So let's break it down a little bit and look at the next slide. And I encourage my clients to write these things out. So this can be an exercise for you in your business. Let's look at that next slide, and we're going to talk about who you serve. So think about your favorite, ideal, best client, like the one that you really enjoy working with, or the types of customer that you like most. Chances are those are one of your best prospects, target client. And it's not just going to be, now some of you might sell products, some of you might sell services, some of you might be business to consumer, business to business. So they're going to be obviously different profiles. You can have the same type of business, but their target client may be different. One that comes to mind around that might be, let's think about a real estate agent or an insurance agent. These folks oftentimes are dealing, let's talk about residential and consumers, but they may have certain clients in which they can help more favorably. They may work with first-time home buyers, or they may, on the insurance side, work with folks that are dual income, no kids, or homeowners, or renters. So there's a sweet spot for their offerings, and it could be the products themselves or the knowledge of the person. So think about, who do you most enjoy helping, and build out a profile around them. You may have more than one, and I would strongly recommend you keep it 3 or less. Because if you're trying to be all things to all people, guess what you get? A whole lot of everything, and then your people can't understand why you over someone else. So if you can specialize in an area or two, you're setting yourself up to be an advantage over someone else who sounds like you, right? So in my world, the people that we help are typically small business owners with, on the one end, 1 to 5 employees, professional services that work in business to business or business to consumer. And they are looking to grow and scale their company. And they've already experienced some success. So I know instinctively we can typically help. And then there are others on the outside of that. You may have outliers as well. So start with a list of 1, 2, or 3 target clients. And you'll have to do the same exercise for each one. So let's just start with one at a time. Who's your best prospect of who you think you can help the most? If you're just starting out, pick one, or you might say, you might make a list of people you don't want to work with or you can't help. Having a list of do nots at least gets you closer to identify your target. An unaimed arrow hits all targets. So I'm stealing that from a client of ours, and it sticks in my mind because if you don't have direction on this, that's what you're going to get. So does that make sense? Everyone that is here on this? Okay, great. So let's look at the next slide. And second aspect of developing your value message is identifying the problems you solve. These are sometimes we refer to these as value-added talents or skills. So ask yourself these questions. What do I do well that provides real value to my clients? And what do we help our clients resolve, or what are the problems we help them solve? And what makes us different? What's our special sauce? Why me? Why our company? This can be challenging to someone who is a provider of a service or a product that has a lot of competition out there. Banks, for example, can struggle with this quite a bit. Even bankers. So think about, it may be the distinction between you and your competition is you. The first sale in any sale is the sale of yourself. So if you're struggling with this, jot some things down of the problems you think can help people solve. And you can also ask your customers, and you can say, I am doing some marketing strategy work on my business. Can I ask you 1 or 2 questions? And see what kind of information you get back. If they say something generic, like, oh, you're a really nice guy, or, wow, she always answers the phone when I call, that may not be enough. You might have to, well, and why is that important to you? Tell me why that's different. Get more information behind that, okay? So let's look at the last part of developing your value message. And that is going to be, we can look at the next slide. Sorry. Looks like maybe, okay, yeah, this is right. And this is why your company. So I want to talk a moment about features versus benefits, okay? And here's everyone can unmute on this if you have the answer to this question. I'm going to buy a drill. What do I want? Anyone? Manuel, do you have what is your answer?
For me, it's a wireless drill.
I'm going to buy a drill. What do I want?
Yeah, something that's wireless, something that has a rechargeable battery on it.
Wrong.
More of a feature.
Miko, what do you think? If I want a drill, what do I want?
Just unmute yourself, Miko.
I don't know, actually.
Okay, it's all right. So I go to the Home Depot. I want a drill. What do I want? And believe me, I ask this question all the time in front of groups of 20, 30 people, and rarely do I get the answer. The answer is, I want a hole, right? I want a hole in something. The hole in this example is the benefit. That's what I get from getting a drill. All of the features of the drill, wireless, battery operated, drills through wood, drills through cement, all those things are features of that product. Oftentimes when we are not effective at selling, we'll blather all over people about the features of what we do. And they don't care. People don't care about what you do. People care about what you can do to help them. And that's the benefit. So when you start going through that exercise of developing your value message, think about this exercise and ask yourself, what is the whole that I'm delivering, right? Or what is the benefit that I'm delivering? Because it's not the product, it's not the insurance policy. It is the feeling that that insurance policy gets them. It's the money savings. It's the risk that, it helps them feel more in control, whatever. There's a benefit to it. beyond what we can understand. Okay? So let's look at the next page. Thank you for participating in my example there, guys. Okay. So I think one of the couple of things I want you to consider, what are the benefits that I deliver? We talked about that. Why do your current customers do business with you? And these are exercises you can write out the answers on your own, or you can talk to your clients and customers and try to find out, you know, why would new clients come on board with us? Clients come on board with us because they want to grow. They have a vision for their company and they want to get there, and they're struggling to do that. The other thing is, if you're getting referrals from someone to your company and they're sending you opportunities to clients, why? What did they get by sending those referrals to you? What's the benefit you're bringing to those referral partners? Because those are really valuable relationships, and you want to be able to quantify what that is and the value to them. And it may not be, hey, I give them a referral fee. It may be, it helps them solidify their transaction. It helps them look really connected and like a go-to person for their clients. It gives them something. Drill down and find out what that is, because you can duplicate that. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. And hopefully I'm moving along at a good pace, but I wanted to provide some really key information here. So the top of the funnel, we talked about the prospecting part of your business is really critical. If you can have a system around prospecting, this slide says prospects equals options, and mastering prospect, you will be the master of your sales destiny. It's so true. It's predictable in understanding where your next sale is coming from if you can continue to have prospects going into the top of your funnel. So let's talk a little bit about how that can happen in this process of selling. If you go to the next slide. So I brought back this sales funnel, the lead generation and the sales funnel. And remember, the prospects are the top part, the folks that go in through marketing and business development and relationships, which we're going to talk about. We're not going to touch too much on digital marketing, but that could be part of your business, as are advertising and things like that. So we're going to talk about not only prospects, but how do you move them through your funnel so that they can come out as paying customers. Notice the funnel gets narrower. Every prospect doesn't become a customer. That's the reality of it. So normalizing that is also part of helping you feel comfortable with selling, right? It's nothing personal. It's just that everybody is not going to be a customer. But we can do things to increase the number, the better those ratios for your business. So let's look at the next slide, please. So prospecting. Prospecting, I want you to think about is building your list of people. The more people that we have going into our sales funnel, onto our list, the better. And the purpose of prospecting or doing a call or connecting with someone or meeting someone at an event, there are three purposes of prospecting. The first one is to get information. It's to meet them, understand what they do, learn a little bit about them. The second is to give information. It doesn't say vomit all over them and talk to them incessantly, right? So just give them information, and it's build that relationship a little bit. And the third one is setting a next step, setting a meeting or a call, okay? Notice prospecting, for all of you who are fearful of sales, is not involved in selling anyone. It is involved in gathering and getting to know more people. And as humans, especially at this time in our experience as humans and during COVID, it's more desirable to increase the number of people you know, okay? So let's look at the next slide. I wanted to give you some prospecting tactics that we know work. Some of this is repeating and underscoring what we talked about already. So here are top 9 tactics on prospecting. The first one is know your target audience. We talked about that. Who are you trying to connect with? Okay. Have 2 or 3 real problems you solve or solutions you provide. Again, we're going back to our value message. This next one is perfect your message and your value statement. And we don't really have time to talk about that today, but you will see in going through that exercise, it will be easier to discuss that if you encounter someone and you want to make it concise and to the point and not drone on and try to tell them everything. If I know that the person I'm meeting, if Ella, let's say, is a doctor or a medical provider, then I know we do work with them. I'm not going to talk about all of the other and construction, we do this, right? So I will give the value message to her that's applicable to her. And then I quickly turn it around and ask her more questions. So the exercise we did earlier will help you in the prospecting. Number 4, fish where the fish are. This sounds a little bit funny, but what we mean is go to the places or to the lists or to the events where your best prospects are. So if you're trying to connect with attorneys, perhaps you go to where attorneys go, bar association events and things like that. MAG events, if you're trying to connect with realtors, there's certainly quite a few board of realtors, things like that. So fish where the fish are. And if you don't know, find out. Find out where your clients go and connect with their peers. Know or understand clearly what your prospects want. Hopefully you know that, but you'll have to talk with them and ask questions to find that out. That's the best way to ascertain that information. Number 6, I have networking versus not working. How many of us have gone to events and realized or attended events that this is not a good fit for me? So we'll talk a little bit about being smart about using your time. Understand the purpose of your call. I talked about this a little bit before. If it's a prospecting call, it's to just get some information. We're sifting through the prospects in our funnel to decide if we should spend more time with them. Number 8, I would strongly suggest you earn referrals from your clients and develop strategic partners that can refer people to you. Obviously, that's there are strategies around doing more of that. We can talk about that for another hour, but I won't. And then leverage your current customers for new strategic alliances. So here's what I mean by that. Let's suppose you have businesses or your customers, and you are a CPA or a bookkeeper. Let's go with a bookkeeper, and you keep the books of your business owner, Mr. Cement Company. So Mr. Cement Company probably has several clients he does or she does work with, probably has an insurance and workers' comp person, an attorney, an accountant. Those people can be good connections for you. And you might talk with your clients about who are some of the key people they also take advice and guidance from. And perhaps you can now, because you share a client, there's a mutual reason to talk. So there are a lot of strategies around that, and hopefully there's you picked up 1 or 2 things you can do to make, connecting with valuable people a little less painful. Make sense? If so, we can go to the next slide. Thank you. Here are a couple other things you might consider doing. It's a lot of information here. I'm not going to blather on about this, but marketing ideas that most businesses, we know they work, and I'm not suggesting you do everything here. It really depends on the nature of your business and who you're trying to attract. But remember, marketing ideas are ways to drive and increase your list of prospects. So there are things like buying lists, and you'll see there's another page, or doing content, like Manuel's doing these town hall meetings, and so people that he can connect with and provide value and get to know folks. These are great. There's networking, virtual networking events. You probably have a website, you have business cards. All of these are things that are designed to make an impression and drive people to your list, okay? And if you look on the next, I've got a few more here that relate to our talk today. We talked a little bit about networking, affiliate marketing. That may not fit in every business, but can I have other people out there selling or reselling what I do? Endorsements from your clients, testimonials. You can use Zoom to do that these days, written testimonials. trade shows at once upon a time? Hopefully they'll come back. Are you involved with your community because they're do that because you want to, right? And so a lot of opportunities to prospect and build your list. Notice I'm using that interchangeably. Building up your circle of influence, and I want folks to be a super connector. So if you look on the next page here, because I'm going to talk a little bit about networking, whether it's live and in person or virtual, think about this. Oftentimes people go to networking events or join groups and they think like a game of checkers, okay? Checkers is very transactional. You move, I move. I take your checker, you take mine, right? Instead, I want you to think about chess. Chess is a very strategic game. It's not move to move. It's I'm going to move, but I have to think 2 or 3 moves ahead, right? That's how you should look at your networking. And the approach is, I'm going to go to this event and I'm going to sell people, and they're going to sell me, or I'm going to join this group because I think I can sell everybody in that group and then I'll move on. That's really not what you want to do. You want to think about how can these people add value to my business, and more importantly, how can I add value to them first? So if you look on the next page, a couple things about networking, which can be distasteful. So I want to give you some strategies around that. First, I would say test events and measure results. If it's a after work beer bash and everybody's just drinking and eating and nobody's really changing business cards, or they're the lowest level salesperson and the company's there, not really deciders, it may not be the best for you. On the other hand, it depends on what you're selling. So, you know, put these events on your calendar, check them out. The people you meet, I think it's really important that you don't necessarily discard them, have a brief conversation, understand, you know, who they should be connecting with. I look at networking and connecting with people like a baseball card collection. So if I meet someone, they may not be a prospect for my business, but that person is probably valuable to someone I know or someone I want to get to know better. So I will happily make that connection. I was running an event recently, which I strongly advise people to make their own events if they can't find any. We have lots of them out there right now. And 2 people I've known pretty well. They're not prospects, they're not clients. One is a CPA, and she said, I need to meet surety bond people. And I said, oh my gosh, my buddy Hunter. And so I said, I've got somebody for you. And they were both in the construction industry, and they get to meet each other. So that was a win. And now I look like a superhero because I connected those 2 people. That's being a super connector. The other thing is you want to do that for your clients. Find out from your clients how else you can go above and beyond. Who are they trying to meet? Invite your clients to these events. Invite your prospects. Invite your referral partners. These are ways that you can look like a connector for them, and it doesn't cost you anything. It just requires you to be mindful of the people you're trying to add value to. Okay? So let's look at the next slide, and we're going to wrap this up quickly. So I started out earlier by saying, you know, sales is the quickest course in sales is ask questions and listen. Actually, I usually say ask questions and shut up. Whenever I'm working or coaching a client and they are debriefing me on a meeting they just had, and the conversation starts out with, well, I told them this and I told them that, and then I went on to tell them, and I cringe because I imagine them doing all of the talking. So if you don't have a selling system, or you're not trained in sales, we use a selling system called the READ process. At the very least, get in the habit of asking questions and taking notes and finding out the people you connect with, what they want, what's important to them. So here are a few power questions that I grew up here, like now right off the bat, if I met somebody in an event or a virtual event, I wouldn't hit them with all these questions, right? But I do want to know the basics. Like, tell me about your company. How do you get clients? How do they find you? Who do you want to connect with? If I determine they're a prospect for me, I will go through some more powerful questions and get them to tell me a story. more behind the yes, no, or simple questions. I want them to give me the reasoning behind some of the things. So these are just some really good power questions, and you can imagine the list is endless, but get in the habit of asking questions and listen. Sales 201 is ask open-ended questions, right? Tell me about that. Tell me a story and listen. So, next slide, please. So what we've gone over today are just like tips and just a dribble of information that hopefully has inspired you to not be fearful or see selling and building relationships to grow your business as something you can't do. There is a process, and mastering the process and being mindful of adding value everywhere is a really good start. I also recommend that you continue to have a lifelong learning process. You know, how the information you put into your mind, your attitude, your outlook, your vision, the way you think is critically important to success in life, in anything. And this isn't taught much in schools today, but how you think and how you see yourself and how you see the world is critically important. And so there are great books out there. Some of the, the people that did this are dead, okay? The people who do this really well, but it's timeless, universal information. And there are always other books, podcasts. We have so much information. And I encourage you to spend a little time each day and do that. Find a mentor, join a mastermind group with other business owners, hire a coach. I'm happy to tell you about any of the programs we do. Anyone who would be interested in having a 30-minute business strategy session, we offer that to anyone. And it may not mean, typically folks get good information from that they can implement. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to become a client of mine. But if I can add value to you and you can say great things about our company, it definitely will come back. If you go through the next page for me, please. Some of the things that we do: sales training, evaluation, activities-based training. We work with sales teams. We work with business owners if they are also the salesperson for their company. We also will work with their business development and salespeople. So we try to drive the vision that the business owner has for their company through their team. And so if others on their team are bought into that vision, it means that they're much more likely to achieve it quickly. And then I think my last slide is just my information. Oh no, I'm wrong, sorry. So our professional sales training is another aspect. So sometimes business owners are better off starting in a professional sales training program, because if we can help them generate more revenue, then it makes sense to help build your business and help to create new problems for you, bigger problems for your bigger company. Then moving on to small business advisory is oftentimes an obvious graduation. So if you have an interest in any of those programs, happy to provide you info on that. It's also on our website. If you look on our last page here, my name again, it's Barbara Larrabee, and I've put on here, I think on the next slide, yeah, there's our office phone number, my email, growthsolutionsteam.com is our website, and I put on there a 15-minute call. We can start off with that if it makes sense for us to talk further. Happy to do that too. Usually it takes about 15 to 20 minutes. I'll block off 30 for folks to go through a business evaluation and what's working, where am I trying to take my company? What do I think is holding me back? What are the challenges I'm facing? And that's kind of how that conversation goes about. So, Manuel, I hope that was beneficial to your listeners and helping them kind of get out of their own way as they attack the role of business development, salesperson, relationship marketer in their company. I use those terms interchangeably because depending on what they're selling and the nature of their sales funnel, they may be wearing several hats.
No doubt. And that's something that all business owners have to go ahead and consider. And I think you mentioned that earlier, but I really want to highlight that. is that with whatever service or products that you provide to the public, that is your expertise. But marketing is a whole different field, and that is why it would be great for you guys to, just like what you mentioned, to work with a business coach, and such as Barbara's team here, to go ahead and identify and learn more how to be more comfortable in discussing and sharing. But actually, let's backtrack, of you listening to what other people need. So no doubt. And just one of the other things that you mentioned, this is exactly like what you said, this is exactly why we're doing these virtual town hall sessions, is because we want to continue to reach out to the community members out there. So that way, if we learn of somebody else's need of something, and that's not our expertise, then how hopefully we could be that super connector, is what Miss Barbara identified earlier, and go ahead and connect people. Because at the end of the day, if we can do everything on our own, why not? But that's far from the truth. We need to be interdependent with other people. But again, just like what you said, for us to learn from others, let's listen. There. So, so sorry, I kind of expanded to your question, but yes, this is great.
Well, thank you for having me. And again, if I can be of assistance to anyone, or anyone wants to reach out, there's our contact information. My team will take that number, take your calls, put you on my calendar, and then we can have, you know, a very direct conversation around what you're trying to accomplish. And if we can't help you, or it doesn't make sense for you to hire us, I would certainly want to give you some information or free advice on things that you can take on and grow in your business now. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Is it possible to ask a question or two here regarding some of the things that you shared?
Please do.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier that it's not the personality. It's not the personality, it's a process. But at the same time, as you mentioned, emotions are part of any buying decision, and we try to justify it from a logic perspective. Given that, is when you say personality of the one sharing what products and services that they're doing, or?
I think sometimes, yes. I think sometimes people think, oh, I'm introvert and I don't like to talk to people. Honestly, that's good. I enjoy working with folks that have to learn the selling process and are more inclined to listen and ask questions than a talker. I mean, look, I process through my mouth. I'm guilty as charged. So I've had to learn how to shut up and ask questions when in front of a client. And so teaching the process to somebody, don't feel like you have to be a people person or outgoing, the life of the party to be effective at selling. Not at all. In fact, to my point, the less words they have to say, the better. To your point, folks have different emotions and so forth, but you can almost, that's okay, because when you ask questions, you find out what's motivating them. You find out what's important, right? A guessing game. Sometimes I have people say, you know, how do I close more? Will you teach me how to close? Well, close business. Well, a good close starts with a good process of asking questions and understanding which one. We use a selling system, an acronym, it's called READ. And it's, you know, relate, establishing the need. This is when you have a qualified prospect. And then, you know, advancing a tailored solution, something that they identified that they want, and then developing a commitment. That's what READ stands for. So whatever sales process you use, it's better than not using one, increasing your results. Does that make sense?
Yes,
sorry.
very much so. Thank you for that. And then when you mentioned about the why, there's a slide there where there's a lot of whys. I am that person. I ask a lot of why. I practically drive anybody that I talked to for a long time because I ask a lot of why. And so, but I understand that some people really do not want to be asked why. So is that a why question for me as the sales individual, or that's a question for the potential clients that you'll be working with?
So when you're referring to the why back at the value message,
Yes.
I'm asking you, Mr. Business Owner, why should I, in the process, and you need to be able to explain the reason, and like I said, the reason why clients hire us is that they've experienced some success, but they're not where they want to be, right? So we help them, what worked to get them to this size company, let's say $2 million, $3 million, $5 million company, is oftentimes, and that's good, is oftentimes what can be holding them back to get to a $10 million company, which is what they're trying to do. So, you know, helping people think differently about what's possible, that's why people hire us. They hire us to help them grow, get where they want to go. I have a vision in my mind when I started this company. I'm not there, and I need some help to figure it out. So think of it, you know, I don't always like to throw around the word coach, but think about if you're going to the gym and you're going to do push-ups. You can do push-ups and they're like, ugh. Or you can have somebody watch you, spot you, coach you, encourage you, and tell you that, no, you can do 30, you can do 50, and then you see what's possible. It's very much the same. It's thinking differently. Everything starts here first. So the why exercise is that it's forcing the business owner, the salesperson, to effectively articulate why people are picking them. It's not random. So understanding the reasons behind it.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that because again, sometimes I do drive people nuts when I ask a lot of whys, but it's really important. That's the reason why I'm asking it. So I'm asking those questions. And so maybe one more slide that you share that I want to connect to a little bit more is the lifelong learning, because that's really interesting. Because as an instructor before and even right now, we are doing these life and learner success sessions just for personal growth. And yeah, it's super critical. So regardless of any field for that matter, that's exactly the whole point of those sessions. So I'm glad that you mentioned that for this specific thing. And all right, cool. Ella, Mika, do you have any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Barbara, you're about to say.
I was one follow-up to your asking a lot of questions. I would say, because I encourage people in this session, get in the habit of asking a lot of questions. You want to do it with the purpose in mind, right? So you want to ask questions that would lead your prospect down a path. So think about a work like a flow chart, right? I'm asking them these questions. If they're answering this way, I'm going to continue down this path, right? Because I'm trying to determine if there's something I can help them with. Are they continuing to be a prospect, or have I eliminated them from that category? Not that they're a bad person, but I just don't need to continue to ask them a lot of questions if they don't have the money, right? Or if they don't have the ability to make the decision on these things. So I think, and that's why when we train folks on this selling process, it's a logical flow that can be applied to almost any situation.
Precisely. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Ella, Miko, any questions? Speaking of questions.
Yeah, Barbara.
Go ahead, Ella. Just saying hello. Okay.
Yes.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so for everybody out there who's going to be watching this afterwards, feel free to reach out to Barbara Larrabee of Growth Solutions team. And our business is Top Virtual Staffing Solutions. Even if we have those word solutions together, we're independent, but we can definitely work together a little bit more. But the bottom line is what she mentioned earlier in terms of sales. Is that what it is? You are finding solutions to whatever the situation that you're in. And that's what makes the economy go and grow. So hopefully we can go ahead and help you out with whatever needs that you may have. And we're here to definitely listen to to what you're looking for, and hopefully we can help you with those. If not, we're going to connect you to the right people as discussed earlier. All right. So if there's any other last words here.
Thanks,
Good.
guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here with us. So feel free to reach out to the Growth Solutions team in that regard. And we will see you next time in our virtual town hall session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this video informational and educational. Please share our videos and subscribe to our channel. If not, my dad will not give me dessert.